To Montgomery County Mud 6 November meeting. We have two members absent today. Ron Kutschke is in Peru visiting his daughter, and Deborah is, I don't know quite where, but we do have a quorum, and we will get started. We don't have a very active agenda today, so it should be a relatively short meeting. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, hearing no comments from the public, we'll move to item 3. President's and director's comments. The only thing I would like to ask the board members to consider while we're meeting is whether we should have a December meeting. And we'll vote on that at the very end of the meeting. Okay, any other comments from?
Would that be under which item?
Under, adjournment, discuss any matters.
Okay,
Future meeting.
very good.
Any other comments?
Just a question on the financial reports. So we budgeted back the water service repair back below prior year, but then we saw a spike last month on that line. Do we know what caused that?
Probably repairs. There's some water leaks that were repaired during October.
One of those, and I don't remember the address, was a driveway in the jackhammer out in that report. Leak was underneath the road.
Yeah. I had the same question. Is this a one-off occurrence, or are we going to have this?
This is, it's not a one-off, but it's kind of.
It blew the.
We'll get a couple of them a year just
Okay.
throughout the woodland.
Okay, because Maureen, normally it's not that far off on her budget. Yeah, that was surprising. Okay. I will not move the, any other questions on the consent agenda?
And just a little explanation on water service repair. It can vary significantly. It is a guess on our part based on historical experience. So you can have things that several of the MUDs will tell you that things can happen that drive that way out of the budget.
Sure.
But I don't know that we can make that forecast today, but yeah.
Yeah, I know last year a lot of the exceptions were due to the utilities, and then we budgeted back down. So just
Yeah.
making sure that's not what was causing it again.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we're going to move that back. Those were questions that were asked about the.
Okay.
Are there any other questions on the consent agenda items? If not, I ask for a motion to approve it and move on.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All approved unanimously. Okay, moving to item number 9. Receive the San Jacinto River Authority's Woodlands Division report. I guess that's you today, Ed, or it's going to be you, Summer?
I'm gonna delegate down.
Oh,
Everybody-
that's always good.
So you will find the monthly operating reports beginning on page 13. If you have any questions on those, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay,
We also have Dan here with us today. That's going to give you an update on our wastewater strategic plan.
okay.
And one thing, if you could pass on to Chris Meeks on page 27, the beginnings of the breakdown of those who pump groundwater. And I noticed that roughly 367 million of that amount there, the billion and change, is by 3 private water companies. Okay, just want to make that note. I just passed
Yep.
by thanks to Chris.
Okay,
Previously, we just had a single number without any breakdown.
okay. I have a basic question. Ed, I passed on to Chris a story that was in the Houston Chronicle on the front page this week about the odors up at the Lake Conroe thing. And it said they were using the latest technology. And I was wondering if they were using MBR, or I asked Chris if he could check that out and let us know what was going on.
My understanding is that plant is a conventional plant. And originally they had in their odor control treatment. And then council saw it was like $6 million and they
said,
took it out of the project, but they've since added it back in.
I remember that discussion at the council meeting in the newspaper. I think there's Their staff and their consultant recommended that they didn't predict odor didn't think odor was going to be a problem with this.
And it turned out to be a big problem if it makes the front page of the Chronicle.
You are correct. I'm not on the street yet.
Okay.
Yeah, the paper version, by the way.
I also had a question on, I guess it is page 15 of the report. The rolling 12-month, the water loss level has gone down from 9.4 to 6.8. And I was wondering if we had found a reason for that. That's a fairly significant drop. And I realize that the water loss rate at 6% is low.
So the 6% is the unaccounted for. We had a total loss of 9.4. I know last month we did have a few line breaks.
Well, no, actually, the rate went down from 9 to 6. Is there any reason for that happening over the 12 months?
Not sure, Mr. Bruce, I have to look at that. I actually run that report and I have the numbers, so I can dig into that for you.
Okay, yeah, because it has been, I think, as high as 14 in the past. And it would be a significant improvement if it happened. On page. Okay. Oh, the other question I had is the wastewater flow into treatment plant 1 seems to be going down. And if the total combined wastewater right now would all fit within wastewater treatment plant 1, basically. Is this
Average daily flow is, yes.
Yeah, the average daily flow. Is this just a general trend that's happening, Ed? Because
The general trend across because of the water saving devices in the homes. We're seeing, I mean, we did a recent presentation at AWBD, and I was looking at different regional water plans throughout the state, and they're seeing it's trending down all across the state.
all across the state. Now, is that going to affect the wastewater treatment plant that we're building?
I'm going to say no, because we still have to design to treat the strength of the sewage or the concentration of the sewage. And so while you may have less flow, the constituents in the wastewater is still pretty strong.
The solids?
Solids, ammonia.
Well, the fecal matter is what, like 0.2%?
That I don't,
I
that's
think-
outside of my normal
That's outside your
Data.
smell range.
data pattern.
Well, no, in talking with one of the operators, I think he told me that was the number he gave me.
Not heard that.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have. Aaron, anything? Neil?
No.
So continue your report, ma'am. Oh, okay, Dan, up to you. Okay. Hey, this is gonna be a quicker meeting than I thought.
Well, we'll try. What you got for questions here?
I didn't talk about previous report.
No, I'm not going to either. I just wanted to let you know, there is probably about half your packet here full of meeting minutes from progress meetings, stakeholder meeting minutes, various slides. I was not going to touch on that today unless y'all had a specific question. What I did want to touch on was a few handouts, and I apologize for the handouts, but it's kind of the last minute changes and wanted to get you information. But there should be 2 handouts in front of you, one being a proposed schedule and the other being some exhibits regarding the alternatives that we're looking at.
Okay. And what do these show?
So I want to touch on the schedule first, because there have been some changes there.
Okay,
We've talked about in the past that we were going to do a November 29th all mud director seminar to a recap basically of where we're at in the wastewater strategic plan. Since then, we've rethought that and we are going to push that to early January. Reason being, we feel we need to get through one more stakeholder meeting and revise some of the charts, tables, the financial piece. Because I know that's what a lot of people are going to be looking at, and I'm not going to.
very confusing.
Got great feedback at the November 2nd stakeholder meeting. So we are gonna revise that and provide a meeting. We're looking in early January, so you will hear from us, hear from Jim or Shelley regarding setting up a date, early January for all MUD directors. And we'll be able to have a more efficient, more effective meeting, I think, at that point in time. But this overall proposed schedule is showing the stakeholder meetings we have upcoming in December and January. The other thing we wanted to point out is we pushed back some of the final, excuse me, some of the final voting of the individual MUDs and the trustees to where we want to acknowledge that a lot of MUDs are not going to have a December meeting for general discussion. So we want to have the stakeholder meeting in January, come back to the MUDs for general discussion in January. And then in February, we'd be asking the individual MUDs to essentially vote or direct their trustee to vote in March on what the final path forward is, or phase 2 or whatnot for the wastewater strategic plan. But this is overall where we're planning to head to between now and March. Is there any questions on that?
No.
The second handout, I'll add what detail you want me to go into, but overall, this is the 4 remaining alternatives that we have worked with the stakeholders and narrowed down to. Some common aspects of all 4 of them is all 4 include the membrane bioreactor technology or MBR technology for the treatment. Whether that's all consolidating in some point in time at treatment plant 1 or renewal and replacement going to MBR treatment at plants 1 and 2. The other common factor is all 4 of these remaining alternatives show the need for additional land acquisition east of wastewater treatment facility 1 towards Golden Road.
And that would just be on this side of Golden Road,
It would be on the west side of Golden Road.
west side of Golden Road.
So that is.
Which is outside of MUD 6 and also outside the woodlands, but adjacent to both MUD 6 and the woodlands.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'll ask y'all if you want me to walk through these or.
Please, would you do a quick walkthrough?
Absolutely.
Just so my partners here see what's going on.
Not a problem. So page 1 and 2 is depicting a renewal and replacement alternative to where we keep plants 1 and 2 separate, but over time, you're going to phase in the NBR treatment technology. So there might be some points of time where you're running conventional and NBR at the same time. I mean, that would be phased in over the 50-year planning horizon. So that is just, and really all these exhibits, what they're showing is the various colors would be the years that infrastructure would be either constructed or demolished. Whether if it's a solid color being constructed, a hatch color, that would be existing infrastructure that's being demolished. And these are very high level preliminary layouts, at this point in time. So going to page 3, because with all these alternatives, you have the treatment side, but you also have the conveyance side. So on page 3 is what the conveyance system alternative would look like under a renewal and replacement with NBR technology.
Now, this is all gravity feed other than the blue.
So it would be our existing conveyance system, except for the portion between Woodlands, a little south of Woodlands Parkway to wastewater treatment facility 1 depicted by the yellow line. That's where we would have the ability to put in a new gravity line. It would be deeper, but it would have the ability to eliminate 5 of existing lift stations. So we've discovered that through this study. That's one of the kind of valuable information we've gotten out of it, that long-term, operation, renewal, replacement of those lift stations and being able to eliminate them from the system has value to it. So that.
It's about $8 million a year for a lift station, isn't it?
I don't think it's that high.
It's expensive. Yeah.
But together, so those first 3 pages, that's, call it one of the alternatives that we're looking at. And it's more or less the baseline alternative now.
Okay.
Because we don't have a baseline with conveyance technology anymore.
Okay.
Page 4, we've referred to this as alternative 3C throughout the study. What this is a phased consolidation alternative at wastewater treatment facility 1. So we would be building a new plant adjacent to plant one to replace the existing infrastructure there, approximately 2027 timeframe. And then consolidation would not occur till further down the road, 2047, where we would bring flows from plant two down to plant one. Main reason for that is there's significant remaining useful life of plant two that we feel there's value to continue that going. We got sales tax.
That makes sense.
With that treatment alternative, there's two separate conveyance routes on page 5. Conveyance route A and conveyance route C. Conveyance route A is a full gravity line from wastewater treatment facility 2 down to 1. And it would eliminate about 6 lift stations from the system. Alternative C is a mixture of force main by the red line, and the green would be a gravity line. Still be able to remove those 5 lift stations down south of Woodlands Parkway. But this route would push us on the east side of Lake Woodlands, where we'd be able to reutilize some existing infrastructure already in that area. To where conveyance route A is more on the west side.
Yeah.
So those together are 2 alternatives. So you have 3C consolidation treatment with 2 different conveyance routes.
And then we have a new one.
And then the 4th alternative that's still being evaluated, page 6, alternative 9. And what that is we would be looking at building a new treatment plant at plant 1 adjacent to the existing site. And that would replace plant 1 here and address that immediate need of infrastructure that we currently has reached the end of its useful life. We got projects on hold currently out there. So that would address the immediate need to replace that infrastructure in 2027. Looking further out, on page 7, we would not, so alternative 9 does not consider consolidation. The way it's presented is alternative 9 at plant 2 would be just renewal and replacement, going still towards that MBR technology. So the information we have now are going to the MBR treatment technology. Long-term cost of ownership is actually lower than the conventional treatment methods that we are utilizing today. So that was one reason, the financial piece, why the stakeholders chose the MBR. Also, some non-cost factors. We've talked about odor. We've talked about the quality of the effluent that would be going through the MBR plant. So there is some of that too. And then the alternative 9 conveyance route would be the same as renewal and replacement, really still looking at eliminating those 5 lift stations on the southern end coming into those treatment plant 1. So alternative 9 really addresses some current needs we have, but it would push it to 20 years down the road. At that point in time, you know, the MUD director, staff, et cetera, could make a decision to potentially consolidate at that point in time. So we would build treatment plant 1 in 2027 in a way that we could expand it or potentially consolidate it.
I like the can down the road.
In a way.
Have we decided on which type of MBR technology we would use yet, plate or tube or?
This point in time, we haven't got that far. That would be more of a preliminary design. You know, we had the presentation from one of the consultants regarding MBR treatment and the various types of membranes, filters, you know, that are out there. So there would have to be a deeper dive into the within MBR treatment and how we want to go that process. That at this level, no, we haven't got.
Okay. Okay. Aaron, any questions? Neil?
Yeah, I was just wondering, are there any constraints on the distance from existing residential areas to the new treatment plant locations?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit on, say, just like page 1 here.
Yeah, whichever. Yeah.
What we try to depict, it's a little hard to see, but there is a dashed line called treatment buffer zone, to where if you look,
I see it.
if you look along Golden Road,
Yeah.
that first pink dashed line would be the new property line. If you go further east of like the admin building, or sorry, further to the west,
Yeah.
just by the admin building, that would be the buffer zone. So all of the plant's treatment infrastructure is gonna be inside that buffer zone to where we would be able to put parking and admin building, maintenance, those type of structures
Mhm.
in that buffer zone, but all the treatment stuff would be in that area. So
Okay.
yes, that we are accommodating the layout to meet those
Meet that
buffer zone
regulation.
Yeah.
Okay.
those regulations from the houses that are further to the east.
And at this point, we're only planning to take over the commercial facilities, not the 5 or 6 homes that are up on the, as you go around the bend on Golden Road.
For what we're trying to do here, yes, it would be just the commercial property. I know we've had discussions about property acquisition to the north for various reasons, but
Yeah.
for the layouts and what we're doing with the wastewater treatment plan, the primary need is those commercial properties to the east.
Okay.
So what happens to all the land where, say, for example, on page 4,
Mhm.
where everything gets demolished eventually, but say 2027, most of the existing structures are being demolished. What happens to all that land?
No, that's a good question. And we've had multiple people ask that.
Okay.
A portion of it, so. And I do want to point out the blue there, 2067, the sludge dewatering building.
Yeah.
Is over there on that existing land. That is a new facility that we just built a couple years ago.
Right.
To where we don't want to just demolish that asset at this point in time.
Mhm.
So there will be still sludge dewatering over on that property that we would have to have access to and get all that. But beyond that piece of it, there's a large portion of that property still in the floodplain. So that gives it some limited use. Yes, we have the berm to protect the plant. But I do want to point that the floodplain is in that area. Beyond that, I think we're going to eventually have a need for new maintenance facilities. I
Okay.
think we're going to outgrow them. It'd be great to have some additional multi-purpose buildings, storage, proper storage for our replacement pipe, parts, et cetera. So I think that is a valid use for some of that additional land.
Okay.
That if all the uses haven't been identified.
Yeah.
But
Understood.
I think there's definitely some there.
If there was odor emanating from the new plant, where would it most likely be coming from? Would it be from the MBR buildings or for something, someplace else?
I think on the odor side, it'd be coming from the headwork.
Headworks.
Yep.
Okay, and that still stays over.
Planning some odor control of the headwork.
Okay, any other questions? Well, I thank you, sir.
Yep.
We can move on to item 10, the attorney's report, which is always the most exciting point of the meeting.
Exciting because it's brief.
Okay.
No general items under 10. I do need to cover 11 with y'all today for eminent
Okay.
domain.
Please do, sir.
So eminent domain report, annual report we file on y'all's behalf. Every year, the Texas legislature has tasked the comptroller with keeping track of all the entities that have the power of eminent domain and whether they condemned any property this year. But 6, of course, it's not condemned any property this year, so our report will be simple. We follow the report on behalf of all of our district clients, but do ask for our boards to authorize us to do so before the February 1st. Need a motion on that.
And we have a motion to approve the filing of an eminent domain report with the Texas Controller of Public Accounts.
Sure. I'll make a motion to authorize our attorney to file such report with the Comptroller of Public Accounts
May we have a
prior
second?
to the date and pursuant to the section as described.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved unanimously. Okay. Item 12. Receive information on merchant services. That you again too, actually.
So that would be me and Maureen.
That would be you and Maureen.
This is a carryover from the trustee meeting. We had an item that was requested by Paul Martin with the Audit Finance Committee, just to bring to attention to the directors and trustees, merchant service fees. We collectively, the 10 MUDs, this is a MUD budget expenditure. Merchant service fees collectively are approaching $500,000. These are the fees that we pay to expedite transactions, our electronic payment transactions for our customers, credit cards, ACH,
E-check, get a credit card.
for e-checks, all of that. And they vary depending on, you know, the electronic platform utilized. It can be as small as less than 50 cents to more, a lot more. And he just wanted to bring it to the attention. And out of that discussion, President Bob Lux asked that committee work with staff and see if there was a recommendation or a couple of recommendations they might have that might get consensus from all the 10 buds to offset some of that expense. And I just want to emphasize whatever they come up with that we bring back would need to be uniform. We can't have a mixture of that type of thing.
Have they any suggestions yet, Jim?
No, it's way too early.
Way too early. Is anybody else doing anything like this that you're aware of?
Well, if you go online to pay your gas bill or your electric bill or
Yeah.
telephone bills, you often see that they're going to charge you a fee to recover their expense for that. So it's, I think, getting to be more common. You're even seeing restaurants now, some restaurants I've seen that are upcharging you a fee if you use a credit card. A lot of examples.
Yeah.
And I've stated, you know, the credit card companies kind of created this by, you know, offering more points, more rewards, more benefits to customers that use the card.
On everything you
And
buy.
the merchants are paying for this,
Mhm.
you know, it's, so I think it deserves some discussion and see if we can,
$100,000, yes.
if we can settle on something that, you know, that it has been a benefit from an operational standpoint, not to have people send checks in or, you know, come in person. That's more labor intensive to us. So there's certainly a benefit, but it warrants taking a look at to see if we want to try to shift some of this expense to the customer. And you may get an email or see an e-blast just in the last day or so.
Yeah.
That 50-cent fee is a different topic. That is something that was on the trustee budgets, that charges 85 cents. And they agreed to kind of split it. So we'll be charging the customer 50 cents for that type of transaction in the future. We're still covering 35 cents of it, but the customer pays 50. And you can explain what platform that is or how.
That's Tyler Technologies is the company that has our billing system, and they charge that fee. We don't see it. We don't collect it. Woodlands Water's been covering that fee for a long time. That's growing to 150,000 a year. So they decided, and it's in the budget to split it. It's per transaction on our website.
Okay.
So more to come, I guess.
More to come. Okay, receive general manager's report, item 13.
I'm going to hurry through several topics, and then if you have questions on those, we can circle back to get to that. Arthur Bredehoff gave a report on his activities at Region H. You may recall the trustees appointed him to be a representative for Woodlands Water Agency at that group recently. I was invited to speak to RE/MAX Realtors of the Woodlands. They were concerned about the press release, the news story on subsidence. So I visited with them to kind of put things in perspective for the Woodlands for the last, what I emphasized was for the last 4 years, we have utilized surface water and mitigated subsidence to a huge degree in the Woodlands. And going forward, we're going to be helping that even more, I think, with a 50-50 blend. So that's where we are in the Woodlands. I've been invited to speak to the Grogan Point Resident Association in December. Ed Shackelford will be joining me for that meeting. I'm sure there'll be more discussion around drainage and subsidence.
Spring Creek, and what's happening there?
We had staff attend the Sterling Ridge Village Association event in October and the Cochran's Crossing Village Association event on 22nd and 23rd. I forget what they were called, but a lot of people attended. We gave away a lot of coloring books and gimmies for Woodlands Water Agency. And I think Summer, were you at one of them, or y'all staff?
Right next door to you guys, and so it worked out. So it was a great conversation. Keys being located, being neighbors. had jokes because they had a water station out. It was extremely hot that day. And so people would get water and they would say, hey, they make your water over there. And then they would come and talk to us. So it worked out quite nicely.
So good to be at those when we can. In your packet is a kind of a summary on the AMI project, talking about the contract amount, the days to complete, and some of the benefits. I think in your packet is a version with some yellow highlights. Those were added after it went out to the trustees. I got a call from one of the trustees wanting some additional information, so that what you have in your packet was the final version. Just a reminder, December 12th, we will be meeting with the St. Jacinto River Authority, their financial advisor, and our staff to talk about the potential bond funding for the large, expensive water infrastructure repairs needed over the next 10 years, how that might impact the MUD retail water bills. And last but not least, 2 compliment emails, one for me and one for our staff. Always nice to get those.
Okay, it brings up a question. Brian, I talked with John Yours this morning. And as most of you know, John was recently elected to the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District. And they did not have the canvas report ready. And is it because the county has a problem, or is there because something else is happening? Do you have any idea?
I don't know. There's a very specific time under the election code.
It has to be done by tonight, I believe it is, or tomorrow night at the very latest.
The special meeting in order.
But anyway, they did not have the canvas yesterday, and John was concerned about what might be happening. For whatever reason that might be. Okay, if you could check on that and let us know, give me a call, I'd appreciate it. Okay.
That was on the Lone Star agenda.
It was on the Lone Star agenda, but they did not have the canvas.
Really? Yeah, I understood what you're saying, but okay.
Well, I think
They-
the deadline, they may have to have a special meeting, but
Yeah.
They said there was a problem, is all they told him. Now,
I
he
think the
said,
problem is John, isn't it?
huh?
yeah.
The problem is John, isn't it?
Well, he said they were very nice to him. He said they were very nice to him. He said everybody came up and at least said hello. And,
Okay.
but he was a bit concerned this morning on whether anything was happening.
And Mike had a few items to highlight regarding your specific.
Project is down at the city of Houston for bid. It's a combined project with Metro, MUD 46, MUD 67. But in your district, we'll have about 15 manholes to replace, about 1,100 feet of 10-inch sewer to rehab, either by cured in place pipe or pipe bursting. That'll include bypass pumping as well. It's about $700,000.
Now, is that in addition to the money we have already budgeted there?
It's already in
It's in the
the budget.
It is the
It's-
same.
It's in-
Same.
It's the same.
Okay, it just, because I mean, I'm worried about our reserve going down and,
You've got it budgeted. You've got the money. We did complete the final mowing of the calendar year, first mowing of the fiscal year, last month in October. We will do herbiciding, annual herbiciding by the end of this month, spraying for weeds and overgrowth and such. And then the first mowing of the calendar year will be in April of 2023.
okay, yeah, I drove over 9X yesterday and it looked good.
That's it, unless you got what?
Okay, I thank you. Neil, the Woodlands Water Trustee Report, item 14, please.
Yeah, well, that's on page 71. And Jim actually covered much of it. The only couple things was, or the one thing I had was that the Public Education Committee is continuing on developing the strategic communications plan. That document is being finalized, being circulated to all the members. And a message on winter averaging, is going to be sent out to help people understand what that is and how it can benefit them throughout the year as far as their sewer bill goes. So that's pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I would like to compliment, by the way, the AMI program. I received an email yesterday saying that I was finding continued water usage. Gotta go look for that leak.
Yeah. That's it.
Have y'all digress a little bit, been following the news stories about Houston on Channel 2? Every morning and every evening, they've got a story about their public works and their metering and their water meters and the readings. It's been very interesting. I think they've reached a kind of a critical point with that, with their residents. If I'm understanding it correctly, it's.
No, I have not seen it.
Makes you appreciate your situation more.
It really does.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you could,
How many meters can't be read, how many they're estimating, how many, it's just a big number.
Mhm.
I think it's a system.
Yeah.
Well, but it's because it's, in my opinion, been neglected. They've reached the point where they've neglected it, where it's a critical issue.
okay. Attorney, do we have to meet in executive session? Item 16, okay, moving on. Item 17, discuss any matters for placement on future agenda. And I would ask the board whether they would like a December meeting. Mr. Hofstadter?
I'll defer to what you guys.
Well, actually, let me ask Brian and Jim, anything important
Here's
scheduled
what
for
we would
December?
recommend, nothing on our calendars now. In the event something comes up that really requires a meeting, we would let you know.
Mhm.
So see if we can get a quorum, but currently, no, we don't have anything that would require a meeting.
We don't need a motion on that, or do we?
No,
Yep,
no,
Okay.
it would just be
just public notice.
during our meeting, and in the event that we need one, then we'll post an agenda
Okay.
by law.
Okay, you in favor of canceling the meeting?
Pass? Is that typical?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, there is no December meeting for MUD 6. We please notify the public of that.
And we do this usually if it's Christmas falls in the same week of the MUD meeting.
Mhm.
If there was a week difference, we would not, but
Gotcha.
we have done this in the past.
Yeah. Okay, with that, I would like to declare the meeting adjourned at exactly 2:07 PM.
Very good.
Thank you.